when they took me to San Francisco General, I flatlined. And I don't remember this, and I don't have any, what's the word I'm looking for? I didn't have any, white lights or anything. None of that. I didn't go down the tunnel and come back like all this stuff. Nothing like that. I just don't remember. And the way I even found out about it was I was in the VA hospital about 6 weeks later, and I get this doctor from San Francisco General, a very young man, come to me, and I thought he was insane. I thought he was insane because he comes in and he says, I want to tell you something, and I go, okay. Or I'm sitting there going, what the fuck is this? What's a doctor? Like. I mean, I wasn't a very pretty man, I mean, at that time, they had a little heart-to-heart with me, what is it? So that was my attitude. But he told me this is what happened to him. I had flatlined, and he was going to just let me go. Another dead one, get him out of here. And apparently one of the nurses there said, well, just hit him. You owe him that much, with the, what do you call those things? Paddles. So they hit me once, they hit me twice, and the second time my vitals started to come back. I guess you know all the doctor stuff behind this. And he says, I will never again, and this was very emotional for him. He had to hunt me down, he had to come find me. He says, I learned the best lesson as a doctor that anybody could ever give me, because here you are now 2 months later in the VA hospital, and I looked pretty good. I mean, I was up to 125 pounds. They washed and shaved me. I had no beard and cut my hair, and I was, I didn't have a face yet, but he comes up and I said, I will never give up on a human being, and I promise you, like he was talking to himself, basically. And then I was kind of like pissed off when I found out that they, don't bring me back. Just finally let that pain end. Suicide was like, that was a hero thing. I couldn't do it. It would have been a blessing at that time. At that point, it would have been a blessing for him to just let me go. So.
Is there's so many people who just wish, either verbally in the comment section, or they're thinking it, or they're actually shouting it, that this would all just go away.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that too.
We do too. But I know wishing isn't enough.
No. I actually don't know if you want to address that issue of wishing it would all just go away.
Yeah.
I think people get discouraged about the issue of homelessness because they feel like there is no quick fix and that it is an intractable problem.
Right.
Do you think it is an intractable problem?
No, I don't. I think it's a complex problem, but that's different. And that's what I would say is that, intractable means that no matter which way you go at it, it's not going to move. And all the research that's been done, including our own, doesn't point us in that direction at all. It is a complex problem. It's a complex social, structural, and behavioral problem that needs multiple points of intervention. But we have a lot of clues as to what those would be. And so it really comes down to political will and the willingness to resource the programs that will be effective for the most amount of people from a public health perspective, rather than waiting until you have a much more intractable problem, which is the costs of paying for people who are incredibly ill, and accessing our social system and our social network as much as it exists in extremely inefficient ways that cost society more. So just from a cost perspective, it doesn't make any sense not to try and resource some of the avenues such as supportive housing and effective mental health care and access to drug treatment. That's just 3. And those are not, even in a highly resourced city like San Francisco, effectively, interacting and available.
There's a VA hospital, and they made this deal with UCSF, and these little doctors, little dentists, learning, what are they, interns, as they said. Well, they started working on my mouth. They were like little ghouls. There was working on my face too. down at the VA. But I'll never forget that. Yeah, my teeth were I couldn't eat. I hurt. My mouth would hurt. All and I was like up in here. Yeah, that's another thing. The sinuses cleared up too when they fixed all this up in here. Because I remember I breathed through my mouth for years. It was really a beautiful sight.
You know, if you can imagine, it's difficult to do to the level that women are really experiencing it, but hitting rock bottom and the sets of circumstances that need to all come into play, like the cogs in a wheel that all need to click into place. Getting inside is one, but it's not enough. Women need access to treatment that works for them if they're battling with an addiction, because that's a very serious disease and it needs to be addressed as one component of it. And often women need to have some sort of family reunification. Can also really help with that. Women feel like they can reconstruct so much of what they've lost to their poverty and to their life, and then mental health counseling, I think, is the other bit. And that can run the range of getting a good diagnosis and getting on medication if that's what is working and what's warranted, and also just having somebody who, in more of a psychoanalytic mode, who can actually hear your stories. And the women that I've spoken to that have been able to get onto the other side have been acknowledged, and they've had a place where they could tell their story, oftentimes to other women who had their experience as well, who could identify with them and validate them, to relieve some of the burden and the stigma of actually being homeless for 6 months, a year, or maybe 10 years. It is hard to see yourself in another way.
What we certainly see, right, is if folks start to feel like they have some control over their life, when they start to feel like they have some future, then they will start to reduce high-risk behaviors or start to take care of themselves, start to go to the doctor.
They put me back together again. I stayed there for 3 months. Very nice woman. It's just a person, and for something inside of me said, do what she tells you to do. Lynn Elliott is her name. And she started talking to me one night at the VA, because I was getting all set to go back out on the streets. I was feeling good again. She convinced me to go to a halfway house in San Francisco called Got that 2 people actually didn't want anything from me other than for me to join their little community of self-help. They didn't want drugs. They didn't want anything I was holding. They didn't want any of that. They just wanted me as a person, not even the identity Ed O'Connell, but just they wanted another body to help. And they told me that if I help somebody else, that's the way I would get it all. So here I am 15 minutes off the streets, and I'm actually talking to another street person, helping him to come along. Yeah, community, the village. The loss of the village is to be bemoaned, but until we get it back, I don't think there's any help.
The research is pretty consistent and very strong in that it's social support consistently predicts better health outcomes, consistently predicts better housing outcomes. So social support with at least one other person, as well as a community, and there's a whole huge new body of literature and a lot of research on your community, your neighborhood, your environment, kind of the where you are has a huge influence on all of this too.
I'm seeing this in so many aspects now. This is where I have my hope. I first, of course, saw it in AA. AA is not about the 12 steps. It's not about sponsors or sponsees. It's not about God. It's just not. AA is about the simple fact that when Bob and Bill were in the hospital talking to each other, Bill took a look at his watch and says, I've been talking to you for 4 hours now, and I haven't thought about a drink. That was the beginning of his village. Nothing to do with God, 12 steps, none of that crap. Nothing. It was the first rebuilding of a village.
Research is actually really consistent on that too, not just here, but in Chicago, here, all over the country, that when people have housing, supportive housing in particular, supportive housing is going to help, and it's cost effective. So even though you're putting out the money for it, you're ultimately in the long run saving money.
You've been paying taxes?
Not only paying taxes, but hiring guys to pay taxes. Yeah, a lot of taxes. Yeah, a lot of taxes.
Do you think the effort put into you paid off?
Oh yeah, immensely. Yeah, I looked at strictly from an economic point of view. You bet I've contributed a hell of a lot more. You know, yeah, and it feels good. You know, it feels good. It's part of who I am now. So,
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the reverse thing that I'm guilty of myself now. I'll see somebody on the streets and he doesn't exist or she doesn't exist, even after all these years after going through it myself, is what I learned from that doctor: don't ever give up. Don't give up on us. You know, it makes me appreciate the work I do. I held them back, but don't. You know, we're not different. Some way I'm still homeless.
So my well, they should just go away. Yeah, they should just go away because it would be less painful for you. Because then you wouldn't have to face the reality that we live in a world that's not taking care of society, a city that's not taking care of our young people, that says it's okay for 14-year-olds to sleep on the street. So yeah, I'm sure you want them to go away, because then you are abdicated from any sense of responsibility from that. And the reality is we are all responsible for how we treat our young people and our old people and everybody else along the way who is less fortunate or has issues or has stuff or has reasons why. Nobody woke up one day and said, my life goal is to be homeless. Nobody did that. So clearly something happened, and clearly if we want to be a compassionate, caring community, we have a responsibility to help those for whom who need help. It's just really that fundamental. You know, what's the saying? Right? It's really we should. We are judged by how we care about others and how we care about our community.
You know, it's some way I identify more with the. It's easier to identify with the old Ed O'Connell and who I am now.
Can you tell me a little bit about who you are now?
Powerful, potent, humble. But not false humble. I mean, I'm a great guy. I give back to my community. I'm doing all I can to give back to others. It's just the true joy in life is giving back. Selfish. I love this. I don't want to give this up. I don't want to take it away from me. Hardworking, lazy. And I guess bottom line grateful who I am now. Gratefulness sustains me.
I've been mountain biking for years, and it's my passion. I can show you my shed out here. I got a couple, 3 bikes.
This is a community of people, that needs to be acknowledged and and helped as well and supported, so that they can, these are people who have had families, who were children themselves. They always, think about homeless people as if, as you said, they just popped up out of nowhere, and that's not the case at all. And
well, I think a little my soapbox there, didn't I?
That's great.
but that, oh yeah, that's the